3 years ago, I was eating ramen noodles for the 7th day in a row, staring at a bank account that showed negative $37, when something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped. I looked up at the ceiling of my tiny studio apartment in Austin and whispered something that would change everything. Universe, I'm ready to learn what I've been doing wrong. What happened next wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was the most profound awakening to a truth that had been hiding in plain sight my entire life. Today, I want to share with you how I went from that broken moment to manifesting over $300,000 in unexpected income within 18 months. But more importantly, I want to share how I discovered that abundance was never about the money at all. My name is Maria, and I'm 32 years old. I grew up in a middle-class Latino family in San Antonio, where money was always tight, but we made it work. My parents taught me that hard work was everything, that you had to struggle to earn your place in this world. Money doesn't grow on trees, mija, my mom would say every time I asked for anything beyond the basics. I carried that belief with me like a heavy backpack through college, through my first job as a marketing coordinator, and into my late 20s when I decided to start my own graphic design business. I thought I was being smart, practical, responsible. I worked 16-hour days, said yes to every client, and charged prices so low that I barely covered my expenses because I was terrified of asking for what I was worth. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, creating beautiful things for other people's businesses to thrive, while my own life was falling apart financially. By the time I turned 30, I had burned through my savings, maxed out 2 credit cards, and was 3 months behind on rent. My business wasn't a business. It was an expensive hobby that was slowly drowning me. The worst part wasn't the numbers in my bank account. It was the shame. The crushing weight of feeling like a failure. Every morning, I'd wake up with this knot in my stomach, this constant anxiety that made my chest feel tight. I'd check my phone first thing, hoping for an email from a potential client, refreshing my bank app like it might magically show different numbers. I remember one particularly devastating Tuesday in March 2021. I had just lost what I thought was going to be my biggest client, a local restaurant chain that decided to go with a bigger agency. I sat in my car in the parking lot after that meeting, and I cried, really cried. The kind of crying where you can't breathe and your whole body shakes. That night, I called my sister Elena. I don't think I can do this anymore, I told her. Maybe I should just get a regular job. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Elena, bless her heart, listened to me sob for 20 minutes before she said something that planted the first seed. Maria, you're the most creative person I know. You're talented, you're smart, you work harder than anyone I've ever met. So why do you keep attracting broke clients and nightmare projects? What if the problem isn't your skills? What if it's something else? That question haunted me for weeks. What if it wasn't my skills? What if it was something else? I started paying attention to my thoughts, really paying attention, and what I discovered horrified me. From the moment I woke up until I went to sleep, I was running a constant mental commentary of lack, fear, and limitation. I can't afford this. There's never enough. I'm not good enough. Who am I to charge premium prices? Rich people are greedy. Money is the root of all evil. It was like discovering I'd been poisoning myself with my own thoughts for 30 years. That's when Elena sent me a YouTube video that would change everything. It was a woman named Rhonda Byrne talking about something called The Secret. I rolled my eyes at first. It sounded like new age nonsense, but I was desperate enough to listen. She talked about the law of attraction, about how our thoughts create our reality, about how we're always manifesting whether we know it or not. She said that if we're experiencing lack, it's because we're focused on lack. If we want abundance, we need to focus on abundance. My first reaction was anger. That's ridiculous, I thought. I'm not choosing to be broke. I work my ass off. But then I remembered what Elena had said, and I started to wonder, what if she was right? I spent the next week diving deep into everything I could find. Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, Louise Hay's work on limiting beliefs. I discovered Neville Goddard's teachings about imagination creating reality, and Joseph Murphy's insights about the subconscious mind. The more I read, the more I realized that every successful person seemed to understand something I didn't. That mindset wasn't just positive thinking, it was the foundation of creating your reality. But here's what really got me. Bob Proctor said something in a video that hit me like a lightning bolt. He said, "If you're not happy with what you're getting, change what you're giving." I realized I had been giving energy to lack, fear, and limitation every single day. No wonder that's what I kept receiving. That night, the same night I'd eaten ramen for the 7th day straight, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and exciting. I was going to rewire my entire relationship with money and abundance. I was going to test this law of attraction thing with everything I had. I started with baby steps because, honestly, I was scared. The idea that my thoughts had been creating my reality meant I had to take responsibility for everything that had happened to me. That was a hard pill to swallow. My first practice was gratitude. Every morning, before I even got out of bed, I would find 3 things to be grateful for. At first, it was basic stuff. I'm grateful for this bed, for the roof over my head, for Elena's support. But even those simple acknowledgments started to shift something inside me. Then I started working with affirmations. Louise Hay taught that we need to change our internal dialogue, so I began replacing my automatic negative thoughts with positive ones. Instead of, "I can't afford this," I'd catch myself and say, "Money flows to me easily and effortlessly." Instead of, "I'm not good enough," I'd say, "I am worthy of abundant success." At first, it felt fake, like I was lying to myself. My bank account was still negative, my client roster was still empty, and here I was pretending I was abundant. But I remembered what Neville Goddard said about imagination being more real than current circumstances, so I kept going. The real transformation began when I started treating manifestation like a spiritual practice, not just a wishful thinking exercise. I created a morning routine that became sacred to me. Every day at 6 a.m., I would sit in the corner of my studio apartment, the only spot that got good morning light, and I would do my abundance work. First, 10 minutes of meditation to quiet my anxious mind. Then I'd read my affirmations out loud, feeling into the words instead of just reciting them. But the game changer was visualization. I had read about it, but I wasn't doing it right until I discovered Joe Dispenza's work on truly embodying the feeling of your future self. Instead of just picturing having money, I would imagine being the version of myself who naturally attracted abundance. I would close my eyes and step into her energy. She was confident, creative, and completely at ease with receiving money for her talents. She charged premium prices without apology because she knew her worth. She helped her clients create beautiful things that transformed their businesses, and she was grateful to be compensated generously for that service. In these visualizations, I could feel her calm confidence in my body. I could sense how she walked through the world differently, shoulders back, speaking with authority, making decisions from abundance instead of fear. I would spend 15 minutes every morning living in her reality until the feeling became so real that my current circumstances felt like the illusion. I also started a gratitude journal, but not the way most people do it. Instead of just writing what I was grateful for, I would write as if my manifestations had already happened. I'm so grateful for my incredible clients who value my work and pay me generously. Thank you, universe, for the abundance that flows to me from multiple sources. I love how easy it is for me to attract perfect opportunities. The first few weeks were hard. My logical mind kept fighting these practices. I'd be in the middle of an affirmation and think, "This is stupid, you're still broke." But I remembered what Joseph Murphy said about the subconscious mind not knowing the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined, so I kept feeding it images and feelings of abundance. About a month in, something interesting happened. Things got worse before they got better. I lost another client, a small nonprofit that decided to go with their nephew who knew Photoshop. My car broke down and needed $800 in repairs that I absolutely didn't have. My landlord sent me a final notice about late rent. This is the part they don't always tell you about manifestation work. Sometimes, when you start shifting your energy, old patterns show up stronger than ever, like they're fighting for their survival. I had a complete breakdown. I remember sitting on my bathroom floor at 2 a.m., crying and feeling like a complete fraud. What am I doing? I asked myself. I'm sitting here pretending to be abundant while my life falls apart. This is insane. I almost quit everything that night. Almost went back to the familiar pattern of struggle and complaint and blame. But something inside me whispered, what if this is just the old pattern trying to pull you back? What if this is the exact moment you need to hold stronger to your new reality? That's when I remembered what Esther Hicks taught about contrast, that sometimes we need to experience what we don't want to get really clear about what we do want. This breakdown wasn't a sign that manifestation wasn't working. It was a sign that I was in the middle of a transformation, and transformations are messy. So instead of giving up, I doubled down. I started my morning practice even earlier, 5:30 a.m. I added evening visualization sessions. I began reading Neville Goddard's work more deeply, particularly his teaching about persisting in the assumption of your wish fulfilled even when circumstances seem to contradict it. During this dark period, I also discovered something crucial about money blocks. Through Louise Hay's work, I realized I had deep, inherited beliefs about money that went back generations. My grandmother used to say, "We're not rich people, mija. Rich people are different from us." My parents fought about money constantly when I was young. I had absorbed the message that wanting money was selfish, that good people shouldn't care about material things. I had to heal these old wounds before I could fully open to abundance. I started inner child work, forgiving my family for the limiting beliefs they had unknowingly passed down, and most importantly, forgiving myself for all the years I had blocked my own success out of unconscious loyalty to struggle. 6 weeks into my practice, something subtle but profound shifted. I can't explain it exactly, but it felt like I had internally moved from hoping abundance would come to knowing it was already on its way. The desperate energy was gone. In its place was this calm certainty that everything was working out perfectly. The first sign showed up in an unexpected way. I was at the grocery store, doing my usual routine of adding up prices in my head to make sure I didn't go over my $30 budget, when I found a $50 bill on the ground near the produce section. I looked around, asked a few people if they had dropped it, but no one claimed it. As I held that money in my hands, I felt this wave of gratitude wash over me. Not just for the $50, but for the reminder that abundance really was everywhere when I was open to receiving it. That same week, I got an email from a potential client I had completely forgotten about. A woman named Sarah, who ran a boutique wellness center in Los Angeles, had found my website months earlier and bookmarked it. She was finally ready to rebrand her business and wanted to know if I was available. During our phone consultation, something was different about how I showed up. Instead of the desperate, people-pleasing energy I usually brought to client calls, I was calm and confident. I listened to what she needed, shared my vision for her brand, and when she asked about pricing, I quoted my full rate without apology or explanation. She said yes immediately. Not only that, she said she appreciated working with someone who clearly valued their own work. That project paid me $3,500, more than I had made in the previous 3 months combined. But the real victory was how it felt to show up as the version of myself I had been visualizing. Confident, creative, worthy of generous compensation. Once that first manifestation happened, it was like a dam had burst. Opportunities started showing up everywhere. A friend of a friend needed help with their restaurant's rebrand. A local yoga studio wanted new marketing materials. A tech startup in Austin was looking for a designer who understood wellness businesses. But here's what was really different. I wasn't chasing these opportunities. They were finding me. People were referring me without me asking. Clients were reaching out saying they had heard about my work through some mysterious network of recommendations. I realized this was what Rhonda Byrne meant when she talked about the universe conspiring to help you when you align with your desires. I wasn't pushing or forcing anymore. I was attracting. My morning practices evolved too. The visualizations became more specific and detailed. Instead of just imagining being successful, I would visualize specific projects, specific clients, specific amounts of money flowing to me. I would see myself doing the work I loved for people who valued it, and I would feel the satisfaction and abundance of that reality in my body. I also started what I called evidence collection. Every day, I would write down proof that abundance was working in my life. Maybe it was finding a quarter on the sidewalk, or getting a discount at a coffee shop, or receiving an unexpected referral. These small signs kept reinforcing my belief that I was aligned with prosperity. The money started flowing more consistently. Within 3 months of starting my practice, I had made more than I had in the previous 6 months. But more importantly, The anxiety was gone. That constant knot in my stomach, the fear-based energy that had been my companion for years, had dissolved into a calm confidence that everything was always working out for my highest good. The real turning point came 8 months into my manifestation journey, in a way I never could have predicted. I had been working with Sarah's wellness center for several months, and she was so happy with the results that she started introducing me to other business owners in her network. One of them was a man named David who owned a chain of organic markets across California. David was planning a complete rebrand of his business. New logo, new packaging for all their private label products, new website, new marketing materials. It was a massive project, easily worth $50,000 in design work. During our first meeting, he told me something that gave me chills. Sarah showed me your work and said you were different from other designers she'd worked with. She said you understood the energy behind a brand, not just the visual elements. That's exactly what I've been looking for. As he described his vision for the rebrand, I could see it all so clearly. The colors, the typography, the way it would feel to customers walking into his stores. It was like the entire creative concept downloaded into my mind in that moment. But here's the part that still amazes me. Instead of desperately pitching him and trying to convince him to hire me, I felt completely detached from the outcome. If this was meant to be my project, it would be. If not, something even better was coming. That detachment, what Neville Goddard called living in the Sabbath of your manifestation, was the key. When you truly believe something is yours, you don't need to chase it or force it. You can relax into the knowing that it's already done. David hired me on the spot. The project took 6 months to complete and paid me $62,000, but the ripple effects were even bigger. His rebrand was so successful that other businesses started reaching out, wanting to work with the designer who transformed David's brand. By this point, I wasn't the same person who had been eating ramen and crying in parking lots just over a year earlier. The external changes were obvious. I had moved to a beautiful one-bedroom apartment in a trendy part of Austin. I was driving a reliable car. I had money in savings for the first time in my adult life. But the internal transformation was even more profound. I had learned to trust. Not just trust in the law of attraction, but trust in myself, trust in my abilities, trust in the benevolent nature of the universe. I understood now what Joe Dispenza meant when he talked about becoming your future self in the present moment. I wasn't pretending to be abundant anymore. I was abundant. Not because of the money in my bank account, but because abundance had become my natural state of being. My relationship with money completely transformed. Instead of seeing it as scarce and hard to get, I saw it as energy that flowed naturally when I was aligned with my purpose. Instead of feeling guilty about charging premium prices, I understood that receiving generously allowed me to give generously. I started tithing, giving 10% of my income to causes I believed in. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because I understood that giving and receiving were part of the same flow, and the more I gave from a place of abundance, the more I received. The universe started speaking to me through synchronicities that were too perfect to be coincidental. One day, I was walking through downtown Austin, feeling grateful for how much my life had changed, when I passed a bookstore I had never noticed before. Something compelled me to go inside, and there on the front table was a book I had never heard of, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, by Joseph Murphy. I opened it to a random page and read, "The law of your mind is the law of belief. This means to believe in the way your mind works, to believe in belief itself." I had been living this truth for months without fully understanding it intellectually. Another time, I was working on a particularly challenging logo design and feeling stuck. I decided to take a break and go for coffee, and ended up in line behind a woman wearing a t-shirt with the exact color palette I had been struggling to find for the project. I asked her where she got the shirt, and it turned out she was a textile designer who ended up becoming a collaborator on several future projects. These synchronicities weren't just nice coincidences. They were confirmation that I was in alignment with my highest path. When you're living in flow with the universe, everything becomes a sign. Everything becomes guidance. As my financial situation stabilized and then flourished, I started to understand what all the spiritual teachers meant when they said abundance isn't just about money. Abundance is a way of being in the world. My relationships improved dramatically. When I wasn't operating from scarcity and fear, I could show up more generously for the people I loved. I could be present instead of distracted by financial anxiety. I could give without keeping score because I knew there was always enough. My creativity exploded. When I wasn't worried about where my next meal was coming from, I could take creative risks. I could say no to projects that didn't inspire me and wait for the ones that did. I could invest in better tools, better education, better workspace that elevated the quality of my work. My health got better too. The chronic stress that had been my constant companion for years melted away. I slept better, my digestion improved, I had energy for exercise and hobbies that I had neglected during my struggling years. I started attracting different kinds of people into my life. Instead of other struggling artists commiserating about how hard everything was, I connected with successful, positive, growth-minded people who supported each other's dreams. About 18 months into my transformation, I felt called to start sharing what I had learned. I began mentoring other creative entrepreneurs who were struggling with the same money blocks I had overcome. The first person I helped was my friend Lisa, a talented photographer who was undercharging and over-delivering just like I used to do. I taught her the morning visualization practice that had changed my life, helped her identify her limiting beliefs about money, and supported her as she raised her prices and started attracting better clients. Watching her transformation was almost as exciting as experiencing my own. Within 6 months, she had doubled her income and was booked solid with dream clients who appreciated her artistry. I realized that this was part of my purpose, not just to create abundance for myself, but to help others understand that they could create it too. That success and prosperity weren't reserved for a lucky few, but available to anyone willing to change their internal programming. I started a blog about manifestation for creative entrepreneurs, sharing the specific practices and mindset shifts that had worked for me. I began offering workshops on abundance mindset, and eventually created an online course teaching everything I had learned about using the law of attraction to build a profitable creative business. By my second year of consistent manifestation practice, the results had compounded beyond what I had ever imagined possible. My design business had evolved into a full-service brand strategy consultancy. I was working with clients all over the country, helping them not just create beautiful visuals, but build brands that attracted their ideal customers effortlessly. I had expanded my team, hiring other designers and contractors to help with the overflow of work. My income had grown to over $200,000 annually, and I was on track to reach $300,000 by the end of that year. But the numbers, while nice, weren't the real story. The real story was that I had become someone I was proud to be. Someone who trusted herself, who valued her gifts, who moved through the world with confidence and grace. I had learned to receive compliments without deflecting them, to celebrate successes without feeling guilty, to set boundaries without apologizing. I had healed the parts of myself that believed I didn't deserve good things. The changes in my life started affecting everyone around me in beautiful ways. My parents, who had always worried about my risky career choice, began to see entrepreneurship differently. My dad even started his own small business, a food truck serving traditional Mexican cuisine, something he had dreamed about for 20 years but never thought was possible. Elena, who had been the first to suggest that my problems might be mindset-related, started applying the law of attraction principles to her own life. She manifested a promotion at work and met her now husband within 6 months of starting her own abundance practice. My clients' businesses flourished in ways that went beyond good design. Because I was operating from abundance and confidence, I attracted clients who were ready to step into their own power. The energy I brought to their projects seemed to infuse their brands with success magnetism. I started noticing that the businesses I worked with experienced unexpected growth spurts, beneficial partnerships, and media attention that couldn't be explained by the visual changes alone. It was as if the abundance I was embodying was contagious. I want to be honest. This journey wasn't a straight line to success. Even after experiencing profound manifestations, I still had moments of doubt and fear. There were months when the business slowed down, and my old anxiety would try to creep back in. There were times when I questioned whether I was just lucky, whether the law of attraction was real, or whether I could maintain this level of success. During these challenging moments, I learned the importance of what Bashar calls following your highest excitement. Instead of panicking when things slowed down, I would tune in to what felt most exciting and aligned in that moment. Sometimes it was taking a course to improve my skills. Sometimes it was traveling to get inspired. Sometimes it was simply resting and trusting that the next wave of abundance was on its way. I also learned that manifestation is an ongoing practice, not a one-time achievement. I couldn't just do visualizations for a few months and then coast on those results forever. Abundance required me to continuously align my thoughts, feelings, and actions with the reality I wanted to create. My morning practice evolved and deepened. I added meditation, energy clearing, and what I call future self-channeling, actually connecting with the version of myself who had already achieved my next level of goals and asking her for guidance. 3 years into this journey, I understand now that the law of attraction isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you need to be to naturally attract what you want. The money came not because I visualized dollar signs, but because I became someone who naturally commands high fees for valuable work. The clients came not because I affirmed I attract perfect clients, but because I became someone who only accepts perfect clients. The abundance came because I transformed my identity from someone who struggles with money to someone who flows with money. I learned that everything in our external world is a reflection of our internal world. When I was broke, I was internally broke. Broke in confidence, broke in self-worth, broke in trust. When I healed those internal wounds and filled them with abundance consciousness, my external world had no choice but to reflect that change. Wallace Wattles was right when he wrote that getting rich requires thinking in a certain way. That certain way isn't just positive thinking. It's a complete rewiring of your relationship with money, success, and your own worthiness. Today, as I sit in my beautiful home office overlooking the Austin skyline, the same skyline I used to stare at from my tiny studio apartment, dreaming of a different life, I'm filled with gratitude for every step of this journey. My business is thriving beyond what I used to think was possible. I'm working with dream clients on projects that light me up creatively and pay me generously. I have a team of talented people who help me serve more clients at a higher level. I've built multiple income streams that provide security and freedom. But more than the external success, I love who I've become. I'm someone who trusts in abundance, who believes in her own worth, who takes inspired action from a place of excitement rather than fear. I'm currently manifesting my next level of expansion, writing a book about abundance for creative entrepreneurs, speaking at conferences about the intersection of spirituality and business success, and eventually starting a foundation that provides business mentorship to underserved communities. The vision feels as clear and inevitable as my current reality once did, when it was still just a dream. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. You are not separate from abundance. Abundance is your birthright, your natural state, the way life is meant to flow through you. Every moment of lack you've experienced, every financial struggle, every time you felt not enough, none of that was because you're not worthy of more. It was because you hadn't yet learned how to align with the abundance that's always been available to you. The universe wants to give you everything you desire and more, but it can only give you what you're vibrationally ready to receive. When you change your internal state, when you heal your money blocks, when you start thinking and feeling from abundance instead of lack, your external world has to change to match. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is about understanding the fundamental laws that govern reality and learning to work with them instead of against them. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to prove your worth through suffering. You don't have to choose between being spiritual and being wealthy. Abundance in all forms, including financial abundance, is not only possible for you, it's inevitable when you align with it. Every morning when I do my abundance practice, I send gratitude to that version of myself who was eating ramen and crying in parking lots. She didn't know it at the time, but her willingness to surrender, to try something new, to believe in possibilities beyond her current circumstances, created everything I have today. Your current circumstances, no matter how difficult they might seem, are not your final destination. They're just the launching pad for your transformation. The same power that changed my life is available to you right now. The same universe that conspired to help me manifest abundance is waiting to support your dreams. The same laws that lifted me from struggle to success will work for you when you learn to apply them consistently. But you have to start. You have to be willing to question your current beliefs about money and success. You have to be willing to feel different, think different, act different. You have to be willing to become the person who naturally attracts what you want instead of staying the person who struggles to get it. The path isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And you don't have to walk it alone. There's an entire community of people who understand that we create our reality with our consciousness, and we're all here to support each other's highest vision. Your abundant life is not just possible, it's waiting for you to claim it. If this story has touched something inside you, if you feel that spark of recognition that says, "This is possible for me too," then I want you to take action right now. Comment below with these 3 words: I am ready. Let the universe know that you're ready to step into your own abundance story. Let this community of manifestors know that you're joining us on this journey. And if you found value in this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. When you do, you're telling the algorithm to share this message with other people who need to hear it. You're helping create a ripple effect of abundance consciousness that can transform lives around the world. Remember, your current reality is not your final reality. Your abundance is already created in the quantum field, waiting for you to align with it. The only question is, are you ready to become the person who naturally attracts it? I believe in you. The universe believes in you. Now it's time for you to believe in you. Until next time, keep manifesting miracles.